Well,
or that was the foxhole one.
That was the foxhole one.
All right, good afternoon. Let me turn the echo off here. Good afternoon or evening to everybody out there, especially if you're listening out there on the international shortwave on 7490. That'll be WBCQ. This is a world famous shortwave station. It's got a lot of famous things, and we had the owner on our show here a while back, and we had just a great discussion about it and how he started off in the pirate days. We'll talk more about that on another show. But hey, if you're listening out there on shortwave, send us an email to tom@w5kub, tom@w5kub.com. We'd like to hear from you, where you are in the world, and how you're hearing the station, and we'd love to hear from you. This show is Amateur Radio Roundtable. It's about ham radio, our amateur radio, ham radio it's also called, and we have a lot of interesting topics each week. This show is actually broadcast live video on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock Central Time on youtube.com/W5KUB, and we'd like you to join us if you can. That is, if you have internet out there and wherever you are. Now, if you're out there international, it's going to be the time for the live show is going to be 0100 UTC on Wednesdays. So that's pretty early in the morning, although we do have some people in the UK usually in here every night that are watching the show and staying up pretty late to watch the show. Katie is in the chat room, but she's playing hooky tonight. She's next door, across the street.
Next door.
She's next door. Katie is next door, so I don't know. We're gonna have to check into that a little later. But guess what? We have Dwayne with us tonight here in the studio. So Katie didn't show up, but Dwayne showed up here. Hey, Dwayne, how you doing, man?
Hey, Tom. Doing well, thank you.
All right, look at it, matching shirts. You like this, guys?
Yeah. Well, I was going to wear a green shirt, but got talked out of that.
He got talked out of the green shirt. I mean, hey, we can do green. We can do green here, but we didn't want to do green tonight. Okay. Well, hey, glad to have you in the studio tonight, and he's here to learn how all this stuff works. And let me give you a side shot here. So he's learning how all the stuff works. So I want you to duplicate this when you get back home, and that way, when I'm unavailable, you can do the show from out in Sundance. Okay? You got that?
Yeah. Hold your breath.
Okay. All right. You got that. All right. Well, let's see. He's here passing through on business and decided just to stop by and be on the show tonight, and we appreciate it, and we're glad you're here. Let's jump out to Alan up in New Jersey, and let's see how Alan's doing. Come in here, Alan. How you doing tonight?
Hello, good evening, good afternoon. I could even say good morning to, looks like Terrence, 2 Echo 0, India Papa Kilo. It's 2 o'clock in the morning where he is, but anyway, not quite that late here. But anyway, good to see you guys. Hope you guys have fun in the studio there together. And a pretty good day here. I've been busy week at work and a busy ham radio week this weekend. I gave a talk to an antique radio club on Friday night, and then was up very early before the sun on Saturday to head out to local club's Hamfest. So, anyway, and we have a little bit of a tech tips tonight. So we'll talk a little bit about coax switches or RF switches tonight, and isolation and how you can use them and all that kind of stuff. So it should be a fun night.
All right. Well, great. And I'm very interested in that. And Well, we'll just we'll see how the segment goes and what you got to say there. Well, I'm sure we'll all learn something. Now, Glenn is not here with us tonight. I don't know what happened to Glenn. He's got a 2 o'clock or something, or did you? I don't know.
He asked for PTO, and you were gracious.
Yeah, I think he
boss,
said he's
gave
got
it
to get
him.
up at 2 a.m. for something or other, so he's
Yeah.
probably sleeping.
Well, I mean, he could be up right now. It's not 2 a.m. He could, after the show, he could get a couple hours sleep, but that's okay. We'll excuse him tonight. So Glenn will be back with us next week, and let's pull Bill Brown in. Bill, are you there down in the Huntsville area? Come on in here, Bill.
Yes, just in between rain showers. So it's been pretty soggy here.
Now,
we had an
I wonder why.
interesting,
I wonder why when Bill
day today.
why when Bill talks, it doesn't switch to his picture. I wonder what's going on here. Bill, maybe you're not modulating enough. I don't know. Let's see.
Well, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Now, see, it switched that time. I tell you what. I
Okay,
tell you.
now
I think I
switch.
know what it is. You probably have some
Yeah.
low latency internet there. I'm guessing,
You mean highlight?
Oh, that could
or
be.
high latency. Yeah, because you did finally switch. It took that long for you to switch to your picture there.
Oh, okay. I'll have to switch over to the MiFi
No,
unit.
That's,
I'm going to get Starlink in the near future. I hear it works really well.
yeah, that's the new satellite, the low orbiting satellite stuff.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Today we had an interesting time with the youth on the air. They have a camp at the Voice of America Museum, which is just north of Cincinnati, near the Dayton area, between Dayton and Cincinnati. And there's a bunch of youngsters learning about different aspects of ham radio, and they launched 4 balloons today, and one of them landed just east of Neil Armstrong's hometown. So they're out there in the field right now looking for it. And in fact, a rainbow appeared right over their payload. So hopefully they've got
that's
a pot
cool.
of gold waiting for them next to their camera payload.
Well, that's cool. Maybe.
And I was able to hear they have a voice beacon on UHF sending Morse code and a voice message. They took a biphone. How do you pronounce that, Alan? The BAOFENG.
Baofeng radio.
Baofeng.
Yeah.
Anyways, they have a Baofeng UHF radio with a voice chip controlling it. So they set it up for 200 milliwatt setting for the low power setting, and I was able to hear it here in Huntsville, Alabama, from 430 miles away. So that's a pretty good distance for that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Hey, let's just jump right into the show here. I got a couple announcements real quick to make, and then we'll get rolling here. All right. So, hey, I heard from our friend astronaut Doug Wheelock today. Unfortunately, he's going to be unable to make it to Huntsville with us. He was hoping to be able to go to Huntsville, especially since he hadn't been with us the last 2 years at Dayton. He has attended Dayton with us the last 8 years, and he just wanted me to give a message to all you ham radio operators out there that he really enjoyed associating and talking with all the ham radio operators. He said they've been very good to him, and he really likes the group, and is sorry he can't make it. He said anytime he could try to come back on our weekly show. We'll probably have him on here again soon. But he is working right now. He's training new astronauts how to walk on the moon. They're going to be going back up there real soon, and Doug is involved in that part of the NASA training. So anyway, so Doug will be making it here with us. Let's see. Let's just jump right on into with Alan here, and let's talk about RF switches, RF switching. So you want to take it away, Alan?
Sure. So, there was a question, I guess, a couple of weeks ago on the program. Someone asked about using an RF switch in reverse. Instead of switching multiple antennas into a given radio, about switching a couple of radios into a given antenna. And, the question came up, do you have enough isolation? Do you have enough is it going to be safe? Is any danger in damaging the radios that are connected and that type of a thing? I thought that'd be an interesting topic, but I think maybe what we'll do is first just chat a little bit about switches in general, and then we'll kind of take a deeper look at that. Tom, if you can give me permission to share, so I'm going to need to share a couple of things here, and then we can talk about switches. I'm going to focus primarily on like the little manually operated switches that you might have in your shack. This is an example. Let me share this. Let's see. So you guys should be able to see I guess this is just a page from DX Engineering, and just doing a search on switches, and you can see these are the kind of switches we're talking about. I use one of these Alpha Deltas here in my shack here, but you got some from Daiwa and things like that. And you can see that you've got some that are, this is actually just a 2-position switch. We got one common feed that's switched from one port to the other. That's what all of these guys are with the three connectors on it. And then this one here is a 3-position, so you can switch from one place to one of 3 different destinations. And then there's a couple of others that have got more, and some that have a lot more, positions to switch to. In addition to these switches where you typically, you're going to locate them where you can operate them, there are remote switches that you can maybe locate at the top of a tower or something like that, and then control them all from the shack. So that you can run one hunk of coax out, up the tower, and then if you've got multiple antennas on the tower, switch those remotely, from inside the shack. And there's a number of people that make those things as well. But I'm going to focus a bit more on the switches, these manually operated switches, because these are the ones that if you're going to use something in reverse, it would probably be one of these. So the question is it safe to do so? So I thought we'd take a look at the numbers and then maybe even show you how you can measure them yourself. Let me stop sharing this here for the moment, and let me share another thing. Let me pull this guy up here and bring up my share again, and let's share this guy. Okay, so the question is, can you use a coax switch in reverse? And look at the feed there. This looks like I was looking at the feed there, Tom. It looked like the video was overlapping. I can get rid of that. That's perfect. Okay. So can you use a coax switch in reverse, to switch an antenna to multiple rigs? And the quick answer to that is, yeah, you sure can in most cases. But let's investigate this just a little bit further, just to prove it to yourself and to kind of go through and justify why you can or cannot do that. So we're talking about this kind of a scenario where I'm going to have one antenna and a switch to switch between, say, maybe I've got this. This is exactly what I have here. I've got my TS870 is the main rig that I use. I also have my rig for nostalgia. Rig number 2 is a TS830, and actually I've got a 4-position switch. And the next position is actually switched into my FRG7 shortwave receiver. And then the 4th position is just coming out to a piece of coax laying on the bench so that I can bring another rig up and connect it into the antenna when I want. So, but all that works well. Okay. Now, in general, you want to ensure that the switch that you're using is of the type that switches all of the unused ports, the ones that you're not switched to. It switches those to ground, and that's going to be one of the things that helps to provide a lot of isolation from the rig you're using to the rigs that are not being used, is to make sure that the unused ports get switched to ground. So let's take a look at the numbers and see what it takes to make this work and work safely. So what's the maximum safe operating power that could go into a receiver without damaging it? I actually had a little bit of a conversation with Rob Sherwood, and there's another guest we ought to have on the show here, Tom, is Rob Sherwood, and talk. Maybe you've already had him on the show prior to me joining here, but so I had an email conversation with Rob, and he said that he routinely tests his radios there with plus 20 dBm. Okay, now plus 20 dBm is 100 milliwatts. And he said all rigs that he's ever tested are all safe with 100 milliwatts of input power. Now, I would get a little nervous with 100 milliwatts into just kind of a dedicated, low-cost shortwave receiver or FDR receiver, but he said he's never had any kind of a problem like that. And just to put that in perspective, that's 93 dB over S9, okay? And so if you've got a mechanical S meter in your rig, it might go to 60 dB over or something like that, or sometimes 40 dB over. But just think about that's plus 20 dBm is 93 dB over S9. But it's still safe for the rig. But if you got an S meter, it might bang the S meter against the stop. Now, if you want to be extra cautious, let's drop a whole nother order of magnitude. Drop down to 10 milliwatts, which is plus 10 dBm. Okay, that's 83 dB above S9. But 10 milliwatts is nothing. That's not going to hurt anything. Okay, at 10 milliwatts. So let's take a look at some of the other numbers here. 100-watt rig, like the typical barefoot 100-watt HF rig. Convert that to dBm. That's plus 50 dBm. And if you get up to a full legal limit at 1500 watts, that's just under 62 dBm. It's actually 61.57 or 61.76, I think, dBm. Actually got the next page I created first and got the extra decimals in there, but I rounded it here. So that's 62 dBm. So what do we need this switch isolation to be? Okay, so if we're dealing with, say, a 100-watt rig at plus 50 dBm, and we're going to tell ourselves that plus 10 dBm is safe, the switch has to give you about 40 dB of isolation. Okay, so about a factor of 10,000. Okay, and okay, well, that's a good number to know. And then if you're running 1500 watts, you need about 52 dB of isolation to get you down to that plus 10 dBm, number that we all feel is safe. Okay. Well, the good thing is that most switches that have isolation ratings on them are rated for 60 dB or more of isolation. Okay, and sometimes much more than 60 dB. So that gets you another, 10 dB more than you really needed here, and 20 dB more than you needed here. So as long as you get a switch that actually has some specs on it, and the specs are, like I said, in most cases that I've looked up, if you look at the alpha deltas and you look at Daiwas and you look at diamonds and you look at MFJs and things like that, they typically have ratings of 60 dB or better. And sometimes that 60 dB rating might be at UHF frequencies, and at HF frequencies it's better because the crosstalk that you get or the isolation gets worse the higher you go in frequency. So you get less isolation at 150 or 140 megahertz at 2 meters than you will at 75 meters. 75 meters, it might be a good 10 dB or more better than it is at the UHF or VHF or UHF reading. So, but if you're in doubt, test it. The way to test it is hook it up, turn the rig you're going to transmit with, down as low as you can in power, and then turn on the other rig that's switched off. And then when you transmit, watch how much power is going into the receiver. And keep in mind that even if it's okay to go well over S9, it's okay to go 40 or 60, 80 dB above S9. Okay, but just take a look at it, and then you can decide yourself whether that's going to be good enough. So, but the numbers really kind of bear it out. So, and if you dig up the data sheets for these, you'll find that most of them have got an isolation specification on them, and you'll easily exceed these numbers. But if if it's an old switch, or you might want to test it to be sure it's grounding and all that stuff, it's got to be clean, it's got to be in good shape. But again, if you test things first, that's always a good thing to do. So let's take a quick look while I'm going to switch off the share here. And just for the heck of it, I don't know if we've got any data sheets that are in the. I was looking to see if there's a data sheet in the DX Engineering page here to see if it indicates what the isolation is, but it doesn't look like it is. I was going to pull something up there to see, but if you go to their website, I'm sure you could find that. But so if you're in doubt and you actually want to test it, I'll show you real quick here how I might want to do that. So what I'm going to do is switch to a different camera. And I think I need to turn the background off here. Let me do that. Let's see. let's go virtual background and turn that off. Okay. So, so you should see, let's see, let me close this. You should see my, a couple of switches here on the table. Oops, I just bumped the camera here. So you got, here's this little 3-position one from MFJ, and then similar to this this one here from Daiwa. Again, these are very similar in construction and things like that, and they do ground the unused port. So if I'm switched to that one, this port is shorted to ground, and vice versa. This is the 2-position alpha delta. I actually have the 4-position alpha delta over on my shack over there, but same type of a thing. And this one is nice is that it features a center off ground that grounds all of the connectors when you're in the center off position. This MFJ has that as well. This Daiwa that I have here, this CS201, does not have a center off position. But if we want to test this, one way to do that is, as I described, just using the radios. But we can also test it using, something like these little, nano VNAs. And let me get this one kind of set up here, and then I will show you some of the results. So I've already kind of set up and did a calibration and set up for testing these. I'm just going to set up a sweep from 1 megahertz to 150 megahertz. Let me set up the display so it goes upside down here so that you can actually see it when I turn this around. So let's flip that display around. Let's see if we can make this all work on the camera. First time trying to mess around with the camera here to make this all work. So I'm going to take the port 1, or they're called channel 0 in the nano VNA, connect it up to the common port, and I'll take the transmission port, connect that up to one of the ports here on the switch. Okay. Again, I've already run through the open, load, short, and through calibration on the nano VNA. So I know it's probably not going to be able to read it, but I wanted to at least kind of show you the result. So right now, let's move the marker. I'm going to move the marker all the way over to the far end here. So if I have the switch over in, let's put the switch in the kind of switched in position here. So now I'm just seeing, this is the loss through the switch is actually minimal. There's a blue line up here. That's my S21, and that's the transmission through the switch. So the switch is looking like it's not even there. Now, if I switch this to the 1 position, okay, we can see, if you look carefully, you can see there's a little bit of a rise in this, rising from 1 megahertz when you get up to 150 megahertz. Because if I have this off, right to the off position, you'll notice how this end went down. So we're looking essentially at the noise floor of this nano VNA. Okay, so we really can't measure, anything better than what's being shown here, which is about 80 or 90 dB down. But if I switch it over to the other port, now we can actually see what that isolation is. And you can actually see how the isolation starts to be measurable by the nano VNA up at this end. Down here, it's more isolation than I can measure with this inexpensive nano VNA. But all the way up here at 150 megahertz, again, I don't know, you probably can't read this number, we're sitting at about minus 71, minus 70 dB. So I got 70 dB of isolation at 150 megahertz. Okay, so that's 30 dB more than we really need, but that's all the way at 150 megahertz. So if we go all the way down, to the HF portion of the band, now if we kind of follow this line kind of linearly down, we'd probably be down around 85 or 90 dB of isolation at HF. So more than enough isolation to keep the other radios connected to the off ports safe, even transmitting legal limit through the selected radio. So again, I think that as long as you double check the switches that you're looking to use and make sure that they are grounding switches, take a look at the specs that they have for isolation between the ports. You can then make the judgment of whether or not you feel comfortable with doing that. But from a technical standpoint, the switches can certainly be used in the reverse direction, or the opposite direction, as opposed to being an antenna switch. They could be a rig switch, and In my emails back and forth with Rob Sherwood, he said he's doing the same thing. He's got several rigs that are all switched through some of these multi-port switches to go to his common antenna system and things like that. So not something to really worry about as long as you use good quality switches. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting to chat about there, and hopefully that answers the question that we had about whether we can use these switches in reverse and use them to select different rigs through a common antenna system.
Well, great. And as you mentioned, you didn't have one to show us tonight, but they're the remote switches that you put out the tower and run one piece of coax. Those are so easy to build. I've got a couple here. If I'd thought about it, I would have pulled them out. Where I took just a military a box. It's got the little rubber seal around it, and I put a RJ45 connector on it. And I ran a Cat 5 cable out to it. That's 8 conductor, and I had 7 relays in a box, so I could switch 7 relays on and off. And it made a nice little antenna switch out there with a little simple.
Yeah. If I'll take a look at this page here on DX Engineering. Here's the remote switch that they engineer and sell. So this would allow you to mount this guy up on the tower. It's a nice weatherproof case, and then there's the control console that you have. But they also sell ones from MFJ, and I hear really good things about this Ham Plus unit here as well.
Array Solution. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Array Solutions actually sells one that sends 2 radios into 8 antennas.
Okay. There you go.
That's one I had. Now, I got to give you a bit of caution. Static electricity does not like those relays because I got it on my bench right now, and it's past repair. So I'm going to be rebuilding. It's past that point. But also, if you look on DX Engineering's website, they actually have a triplexer, 3 radios into the same antenna actively at the same time. So you can run 3 radios on one tri-bander. And I've actually used one, not the one from DX Engineering, but the one from A4OA and or 4A0A. I can't remember the exact call there, but we used one of those at Field Day one year, and you could not even hear a key click from the other radios.
Yeah, the diplexers are nice because the diplexer. People often ask what's the difference between a diplexer and a duplexer, right? And the diplexer is typically a set of filters that are filtering by band. Okay, you might have 2 meters on one and 70 centimeters on another, etc. Duplexers, on the other hand, are typically a set of filters that are operating in band. That's typically what's used on a repeater, where you're just transmitting between, you're separating and isolating transmit and receive frequencies or input or output frequencies on the same band. That's a duplexer. The diplexers are typically switching several bands into, it's like you said, Dwayne, a multi-band antenna, like a tri-band, beam or something.
So
like that.
we have a question in the chat room there. They'd like for you to explain again the difference between dBm and dB.
Oh, okay, sure. So that's a good question. So dB by itself is actually a relative number. It's kind of like the same thing as saying, hey, this guy is 3 times stronger than that guy, or the amplifier makes the signal 10 times stronger. Okay, so a dB rating or a dB level is really just another way of expressing that. So it's a logarithmic way of expressing that ratio. So dB is always a ratio. So in terms of RF power, for example, 10 dB is a 10x change in power. Okay, and 3 dB is a 2x change in power. Okay, when you see the another letter following dB, like dBm, then what that tells you is that ratio has got you're comparing it against something known. Okay, instead of saying it's 10 times greater than this, 10 times less than that, the this or that you're comparing it to is a known, and that's what, like, the M stands for a milliwatt. So when you say dBm, it's decibels relative to a milliwatt. So 10 dBm is 10 dB higher than a milliwatt. Okay, so because that's what the M is, milliwatt. So, and since 10 dBm or 10 dB is a factor of 10, therefore 10 dBm is actually 10 milliwatts. Okay, those numbers actually all seem to work that way, but just we talked about a 100-watt rig. That's 50 dB higher than a milliwatt, right? So that's why it's 50 dBm is equal to 100 watts. So whenever you see the letters just dB, that's referring to things like gain of an antenna, right? The antenna's got 6 dB of gain or 10 dB of gain, right? It doesn't matter how much power you put in, the gain is still the gain, right? So if the gain is 6 dB, it's always 6 dB. Whether you put a milliwatt in or you put 100 watts in, it's still going to amplify it by a certain. It's just going to you're going to have a certain amount of gain. So the dB without a suffix is a relative ratio type of a thing. And then the letter after it, like dBm, that would be dB relative to a milliwatt. In the case of things like antennas, sometimes you see dBd, which is decibels relative to a dipole. So it's comparing the performance of an antenna relative to a dipole operating at the same frequency. You'll see dBi. dBi means your decibels relative to an isotropic radiator. An isotropic radiator is a theoretical antenna, like a theoretical point source that radiates equally in all directions, like the perfect omnidirectional antenna, which doesn't exist. But it's a way of referencing gain of another antenna compared to some common thing. So the suffix after dB becomes the reference or the common thing and turns a dB relative measurement into an absolute measurement. So I did a video on this and I went into more detail with a couple of equations and charts and things like that. So hopefully that 5-minute explanation helps clear that up.
Okay, let's see. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, Bill Pullen asked about the separation on those tri-band or triplexers, and in most cases it's greater than 80 dB between channels.
Okay. So it's pretty similar to, or even with the, oftentimes the amount of attenuation or separation you have in the duplexers is greater than that, because now you're talking about trying to receive a very weak signal in the presence of the 40 or 50 or 100 watt transmitter that you have for a repeater. What we've been talking about with these switches is to have enough isolation to not cause any problems or damage to another radio. But in the case of a duplexer and a repeater, you got the repeater still has to be able to receive the weak signals at the same time as the transmitter is transmitting. So you really need far more than 60 or 70 dB. You typically need 100 or 120 dB of isolation between the transmit and receive frequencies on a repeater. So the duplexers that's why you see they're very carefully designed and very carefully adjusted to kind of achieve that. And it's one of the reasons why duplexers cost an order of magnitude more than a diplexer does.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else in the chat room there?
I didn't see anything else.
Well, great. Coax is expensive, and especially if you have long runs and you want to use low loss stuff, and having a remote antenna switch is a great thing to have out there.
Yep, that's what we use. We use remote antenna switches. Unfortunately, mine is on my Workbench, so I'm doing manual switching now, which in my case means running out to the tower and actually switching. So I'm not making rapid band changes at any time now.
All right.
Hey, just for the heck of it, I put the link to my video on dB and dBm and dBc and things like that.
Okay.
A link to that video that's been viewed 245,000 times. That's now in the chat room.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of times to. It's an interesting topic, though. A lot of people will go to it. Okay. Well, thanks, Alan, for that. And as always, your tech tips segment is spot on, and a lot of people really get a lot of good knowledge from your talks. And let me just say, go to Alan's YouTube channel, W2AEW, and you'll find all these things out there on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I just posted 2 more videos this weekend. Do you remember a couple of months ago we were chatting about analog VOMs and the Simpson 260? So I did a little over an hour-long presentation to the New Jersey Antique Radio Club, and all about the Simpson 260. Talked about all the various generations and flavors of them, and how to use all the extra jacks and ranges and things like that, how to calibrate them, the theory of operation, and all of that. So if you're obsessed with analog VOMs, the Simpson 260, and you've got nothing better to do, you can go waste an hour of your time watching that video. And then I also posted a video, just a short 6-minute video from Saturday morning. One of the local clubs I belong to here, the Raritan Valley Radio Club here in Central New Jersey. We had our annual Hamfest, and I was in charge of bringing about a dozen tables to the fest to use for the club table, and we had a couple of vendors that we bring tables for, and also brought some tables to our food vendor, and then we had Rhea, the Hudson Division Director, Rhea Jairam, and 2RJ was there, and so we had a table over for her as well. So I had to leave here a little bit before 5 a.m. to go to the Hamfest. So I did a little video chronicle of leaving the driveway at a little before 5 in the morning, getting some things set up, and then at the end of it, coming back and pulling back in the driveway again. So a little bit of fun in Central New Jersey on Saturday morning.
Well, at least you got to go to a Hamfest, and that's what
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
We use those the Simpson 260 or 360, or 260 is what it is. We use that for actually finding they call it the reference pulse in an encoder. You got 1,000 pulses per revolution on channel A, 1,000 points of revolution, 1,000 pulses per revolution on B, but you only have one pulse, and it's 1/1000th of a revolution on C. And if you need to set your equipment up where that C channel is right at the top, you can't use a digital voltmeter. It just doesn't work fast enough. And we use the Simpson, and we keep cranking it around till it makes a dip, and then you go back and forth right at that 1/1000th of a turn till you get it where it's off.
Oh, how about that? Okay.
Wow.
There you go.
All right, guys. Let me just quickly make an announcement again out there. If you're listening on shortwave, you're listening to a ham radio show, Amateur Radio Roundtable. It's all about ham radio. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to tom@w5kub.com. If you're out there listening on WBCQ on 7490, we'd love to hear from you. Hey, in a minute, we're going to talk about, I built a little homebrew project for the show. I threw something together this just a couple days ago. Look at this. Look at this. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I will tell you, I did let the smoke out of something while I was building this. And it happens. It was an accident. I knew better, but I let the smoke out. And we'll talk a little about that in a minute. But we'll be right back in just a moment or two. The great outdoors are calling. Get outside and under the stars with one of ICOM's ultimate SDR transceivers. The IC705 is a perfect transceiver for hams who enjoy both the great indoors and the outdoors. It's a perfect QRP companion. The base station has features and functionality at the tip of your fingers in a portable package, and it covers HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. And guess what? It weighs in at just under 2 pounds. It has a 4.3-inch touchscreen, and it's got a live band scope and waterfall. It'll run 5 watts with a BP272 or 10 watts on 13.8 volts DC. It runs all modes, including D-Star. The speaker microphone comes standard. The perfect accessory for the 705 is the LC192 backpack. It has a special compartment for your IC705 and room for all your accessories. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver radio brings direct sampling to the UHF, VHF weak signal world. This all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features that are just sure to keep you busy. It has a 4.3-inch color touchscreen and spectrum scope and waterfall. It has smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels. and it's full duplex operation in satellite mode. Heard it, worked it, and logged it with ICOM 7300. It's a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. RF before various receiver stages to reduce the generated inherent noise in different IF stages. The IC 7300 is the radio that changed the way of entry-level HF. Visit www.icomamerica/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. From QRP to QRO, fixed stations, portable and remote, an LDG tuner will match your radio to your antenna using our lightning-fast, proprietary tuning algorithms. LDG is a family-owned and operated company dedicated to bringing innovative, quality products to the amateur market. All LDG products carry a full 2-year warranty that is fully transferable. Support is only a phone call or email away. We're always here to help you. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
All right, and we are back. Just going to check one thing here real quick. Kathy has been over at our home in North Carolina for the last 2 weeks, and she's heading back tonight. It's only a 500-mile drive. And let's see where she is. I've got this secret tracker on her right here. Well, oh, there she is right there.
What is she doing in New Jersey?
That's not New Jersey. She's halfway between Nashville and Jackson, Tennessee right now. So she's heading this way. She should be here, I don't know, 10 o'clock or so. Just about time for the show to go off. All right. Well, hey, guys, I'm a home brewer. I want to get back into home brewing. I like building stuff, and I like to build it from scratch. This closet next to me right here probably has 1 million junk parts in it. Boxes of resistors and capacitors and knobs and anything. The only thing I couldn't find for this last project was a case to put it in, and that drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. So I went up to the hobby shop and I bought a baseball. Trophy case. You put a baseball in here and you put it up on your mantle, you know. But I wanted something to mount this stuff in. I'll tell you what this is in just a minute. I'm trying to see what order I want to put this out there. So, a home brewer, I like building stuff. Every part in here basically is something that came out of the closet. And it's fun building. You know, I built kits before, Heath kits and other kits, as throughout the 58, 59 years I've been a ham. But you can build the same thing that you can build in these kits if you just have good, junk boxes. And I've been building the little trackers, the little whisper trackers. And they run about 10 milliwatts. And I've got a couple spectrum analyzers that I can measure the power with. And as Alan said, 10 dBm is 10 milliwatts. And when I see that 10 dBm on my spectrum analyzer, I know I'm at 10 milliwatts. And I like building little things like PAs, little amplifiers for this. And if I want a 100 milliwatt amplifier on my spectrum scope, that is 20 dBm. Is that right, Alan?
I'm sorry, you said
100 milliwatts would be 20 dBm.
20 dBm, 100 milliwatts is 20 dBm. Yep.
So I'm using a big piece of equipment to do a little job here, and it's very accurate. But I'm thinking, okay, let's build something here for the show. So I built a QRP watt meter. Now, this is not a bird watt meter. This is a KUB watt meter. I'm not sure how accurate it is. I mean, it's pretty accurate, to tell you the truth. And if you calibrate it, it's really accurate. So what I did is, and here's the final product right here. And I'm going to tell you a little about it in just a minute. I've got a couple pictures here to show you. First of all, let me just run a quick video here for you about about home brewing, and then I'm going to run one where I smoke something, and you'll see that. So here we go. I want to talk just a minute about just some simple things you can do in your workbench. You know, in your on your workbench, it's always good to have a variable power supply. Here's a little lab supply that actually is a dual supply. I can parallel them or I can series them, but typically I just run one side at one time. So it's variable. You can see the voltage. I can
We're
turn
not hearing the
voltage up
audio
and down
from
or whatever I
your,
want.
from your
I can
video.
read the current over here. Also, I can set the current They're hearing you here on the where it doesn't exceed a webcast. certain current. But you know what? This is fancy. You don't need a fancy power supply in your shack. Let me show you. I've used this for probably 30 years. It's a very simple homemade power supply right here. And it's really simple. It's just a simple power supply, a little transformer, some diodes, some filtering, and a regulator, and a pass transistor. And you're actually able to, see if I can get it to focus, you're actually able to make it variable. Again, this is an old surplus meter that I calibrated to read voltage. So when I'm in a voltage position, I can basically read voltage. There's 5 volts, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 volts. So you can watch as I turn the potentiometer here, I can vary the voltage. So there's about, on my analog meter, there's about 10 volts, so you can see that. Let's go up to 15 volts. I'm just going to crank it up. There's 15 volts. And got a lot of projects where I operate, lower voltage. For instance, my trackers that I build typically run 3 to 6.5 volts. So this is a great little power supply. I use this for everything. And I originally built it without this this digital meter on there. I've just got this stuck on the front and across the power leads, just so I have a digital readout. But in addition to taking the same meter here and reading voltage, I've also got a shunt across it where I can measure current. So if I flip this down from volts to amps, now I'm reading current. And the current would be up to 1 amp, so it'd be 0. I don't know if this is focusing. It'd be 0 to 1 amp right there. So that would be there's 100 milliamps right there, 100, 200 milliamps, 300, and so forth. So it's a great little supply. It's something you can build very easily. Parts aren't critical. You've probably got parts in the junk box. You can build something like this. And you don't have to put an analog meter on it. You can buy a little meter like this off eBay for, I don't know, $3 or $4 to put on there. And they have one that even reads current. You can read voltage and current. So I use this thing daily in the shack for a lot of things. And it's good for about an amp and a half.
I'm gonna need to get going here in about 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, so that was just showing you some little homebrew projects, and one of the I use every single day in the shack here is that variable power supply. It really comes in handy. Now I was going to show you this, and then we're going to talk about this watt meter, but I was going to show you the homebrew, the power supply, and I was going to demonstrate it on a video here, but I forgot. I had it hooked up. I had it hooked up to one of my trackers. Again, 3 to about 5 volts is all this thing will take. And you're going to see me. I've got a 30-second video here where I actually blow the tracker up. So here we go. Watch the meter very closely when I turn it up. I thought I was trying to turn voltage up, but I had it on the current. And the current was staying really low. And you'll see when I turn that knob, the current went boom like that. And that's because the voltage went very high. And then it went back like this. And then that was it. That was it. So look, here's about a 30-second one here. And you'll see me blow up the tracker. Here we go. And Alan, you're not going to hear the audio the way I've got it queued up here. But here we go. You know, I like to build things from scratch. I've built a lot of kits in the early days, but I like home brewing, building stuff from just junk box parts. One of the nicest things I've used, and I've used it daily, is this little homebrew power supply here that I built, and it's good for about 2 amps, and it'll go up to I think about 25 volts. And this is just a little add-on right here. I don't need that. I'll read the voltage So it's set directly. for current right now, Voltage and current directly. not voltage. So, but I turned again, the voltage homebrew, up. We're measuring current but right I can now. bring the voltage up. Here we go. Bam. I can adjust, It's gone.
Oh,
Check the It's voltage dead. here. It's dead. It's over with. You know, that was it, man. That was it.
And
So I blew my tracker up, and you know, this thing is so small. You do build it under a microscope, and then you know it's got a lot of things going here. Let's say, hey, we got somebody coming in here. I wonder what's going on here. Let's see who this might be. Don't know who it is. Who is that? Who is that?
oh my, it's gone.
Is it gone? Yep.
Yep.
We're
There she is.
well, say something. There you go.
everybody.
All right. Now, are you at home?
I am. I
yes,
came
yes.
home, so I thought I could pop in and say hi to everyone.
All right. Well, I thought you were going to pop in. Dwayne didn't know, but I saw your email said pop in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd surprise you.
Yeah. All right.
I hope my husband's been behaving himself and being a good guest.
He is. In fact, he told me he needed to leave in a few minutes because that only leave a few hours before the bar closes. No, actually, he didn't say
Well, I
that.
sent him a note. I'm like, don't you think you should be getting going soon? He's got about an hour and a half drive to his hotel. So.
Yeah, he didn't say anything about the bar, but he did say he had to leave in the next 10 minutes or so. Hey, I'm glad you joined
That's
us
all right.
here.
I had enough wine tonight for the both of us.
Glad you joined us here. And by the way, Katie, I mean, here, look at everybody out there. Look, here's a different picture. We got Katie into a different picture. Now, doesn't that crew look good right there?
Yeah.
I think that crew looks really good right there. And
Except for that guy
if we
on
could
the
just do something with Alan and Glenn and me, you know, it'd be perfect right there.
Yeah. Just wipe them off and leave Katie on.
That's well, yeah, you know. You mean something like this?
Yeah, it's more like that. Yeah.
More like that right there. Okay. Well,
Katie Allen Show.
all right. Well, we're not that desperate yet. We still have viewers out there. So
And in case people wondering, we did not plan the red shirt thing. It just happened.
oh, the red shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just happened. I
He
told
wanted
Katie,
to wear something green so he would be see-through.
Yeah, I wanted to be a
Yeah.
disembodied head tonight.
Well, here we go. Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say, Dwayne, we could see through your hair in some cases in the back. It was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hair product you're buying me. It's turning my hair green.
All right. Who's that with Katie?
That is Downy.
This is-
that is the sweetest
that's
kitty in the
Downy.
whole world.
Yeah. Well, cool.
She wants nothing more than you to rub her head. That's it. Just rub
All
her head.
right.
Rub my head, rub my head, rub my head, rub it. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Katie, thanks for
Better than
joining
my
us
dog
tonight.
wants
We're
to.
always happy to have you on here.
Somebody asked how come Glenn isn't smiling because he's not happy about
Yeah,
it.
he's not happy, I guess. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to my project where I blew something up here.
And guys, I'm going
Yeah, I want to see that.
I'm going to slip out and say thanks to Tom and being
Okay.
a gracious host. And I am actually headed down south for. Actually, it's more like east, isn't it?
East,
Yeah,
south, and east.
South and east.
Well, how far are you going?
To Corinth.
Corinth?
An hour and a half.
Okay. Not bad.
Yeah, I've still got an hour and a half to go before I can lay my head down, and I've been up since early this morning. So I'm
Okay.
going to say 73 to everybody, and I'll call you in a few minutes, Katie.
All right. Well, look, hey, I'm going to let
Okay.
you know where how to get out.
Yeah.
You can go out through the garage. You're right there at your car. You already see this? You already see this fancy Mustang he's driving? Oh man! Don't get any speeding tickets.
It's
down through
canary
Mississippi.
yellow. It's a
It
good
is. It's
color,
canary
yellow.
yellow. I've never seen one that color.
Me either.
All right. So when you back out, be very careful because the drive curves.
Right.
It doesn't go straight back. And
But
it's-
cars nowadays plan on stupid drivers like me, so
Well-
they got these beepers and buzzers and all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah,
Cameras.
I wouldn't trust it, but you know what? You could probably pull into the garage and do a turnaround right there.
Have me to sling a circle and
Whatever you want to
burn
do.
that brand new concrete up for you.
No, please don't do that. All right.
73 guys.
73 to you. We'll see you later. Glad you stopped by here. All right. So, great to have the visitor in the shack tonight. We'll see you. All right. I was talking about the little project I wanted to build here for the show, and it was just a little. It's a little QRP watt meter, dummy load and watt meter, and let me just show you how simple it is to build. And I've got some pictures here. So first, here's the schematic of it. Very simple. Very simple. BNC comes in. We got a 50 ohm load. We have a diode there to rectify the signal as it comes through. And then it goes through a resistor to a meter. And this meter is just a little 100 microamp meter. You can use various meters. This is just what I had in the junk box to build. I did put a 3-position switch there with 3 pots there, so I could actually calibrate the watt meter for different power levels. So on the scale, the 0 to 100 scale on the meter, one position, I adjusted the pot where it's 10 milliwatts. The second position on the switch is 100 milliwatts full scale. And then I was going to make the third position just 1 watt full scale. Now you could actually make this like a 1 watt and a 5 watt or a 10 watt, whatever you wanted to do. But I wanted to make it where it was really sensitive. So this is basically it. It's not a whole lot to it right here. I had a calibrated, or I had a very accurate measured level from my spectrum analyzer, so I knew the level. And that way it would help me calibrate this to where it's almost perfect. So
looking at this schematic, Tom, I probably would have put the capacitor on the cathode of the diode, not around the meter. Because now that whatever the coil resistance is of the meter, that's what's going to discharge that cap.
Well, and that's something we can do and experiment with and move to.
Yeah.
Another thing I was a little concerned about, and I might need a series resistor past that diode, because there will be, a very slight difference on that 50 ohm load with those potentiometers. Now they're high value. They're somewhere like 50,000 ohms. So, you take a very high value resistor and parallel it or whatever with a 50 ohm resistor. It's not going to change it hardly any at all. But that's a good point, and I haven't had a chance to do a lot of testing with it. But yeah, I can move that. And
the way you've got it, the 50 ohm load is not going to be not going to be disturbed very much at all. If you move the cap to the cathode side of the diode, then you will see a change in impedance due to that. But then you could always stick another smaller, another like a smaller resistor in series with the cap to kind of keep that out of there. But then the series resistor in series with the meter will present a much larger impedance to the meter or to the capacitor, and it won't drain it off so fast.
Right. So that's kind of my starting point right there. And you guys saw, I blew up my tracker just demoing the power supply earlier. So let's see, my things aren't in any order here. I had a bunch of resistors. I have so many tons of parts here. Here's a bag of precision 1% resistors. These are 51.7 ohms. And I felt like, okay, 51.7 ohms, that would be a good value to use for, a 50 ohm load. It's going to be close enough. And since these aren't in any order, let me jump around here just a little and see if I can find what I'm looking for. I'm measuring it with my fluke, and it's showing 53 ohms. What was that, Bill?
Is that a 1N34A diode?
No, it was a 1N914. 1N914. I wanted to put a 1N34 in there. I wanted to put a 1N34 in there, but I couldn't find one in my junk box. So I used a 1N914. So back to the resistor here. This
Alan,
is
what kind of power can a 914 handle?
well, I don't know, but we're going to find out. So here I am testing one of the resistors, and my fluke is showing 53.3 ohms. Now that's a 51.7 ohm precision resistor. Well, so I start thinking about it. Is my fluke really off that much? I put it on a dummy load. So I put my fluke on this dummy load here, and it registers, hey, 52.3. So I get a different dummy load, and I put it on this one, and it reads 53.7. So then I say, okay, I'm going to check the meter out. I short the clip leads. Now these are, you got to understand, these are Chinese, low quality Chinese clip leads. Between the leads, the meter leads, and these clip leads, I've got a little bit of resistance in them right there. So I wasn't too worried about that, even 1.7 ohms being off. That is not much to a 50 ohm load. Now, the resistors I had, they're small. I guess they're probably 1/8 watt or something like that. They're pretty small, and I'm not going to have much power, but I decided, okay, let's see if I can take it up to a 1/2 watt. So I just took 4 51 ohm resistors, 2 in parallel, 2 in series, and that gives me the same value. It gives me the same value as a single one. So I figure if those are about an 1/8 watt each, that gives me maybe a 1/2 watt, maybe 1/2 watt or less of dissipation here. So that's kind of what I use for the dummy load. Now let's see, where was I? Let's see. So okay, so I start pulling some parts out of the junk box. Let me see. We need a potentiometer. I decided to go with, in my junk box, I have multiple types. I've got, the big potentiometer. This is something like you would take out of a TV in the 80s. This is your vertical hole control, your volume control, your brightness or whatever. Hundreds of those. But if you look at the little ones there, those are precision, those are like 20 turn pots. So they're very easy to precisely set. So instead of using 3 of the big pots, I mounted 3 little small ones there. Let's see. Cut me a hole in the box. Bought me a baseball box. I couldn't find anything else to put it in. And let's see. Cut me a hole in there for the meter. Mounted the meter. Let's see. For the switch, I mean, you got to hey, your junk box is your friend. If you need a knob, you just reach in there, you bring out your knob box. So there we go. Again, let's see. You can see
cigar.
Cigar box. Bring out the cigar box. So,
is that a trophy meter?
Yes, a trophy. It's a baseball trophy case. That's all I could find.
So that'd be a trophy meter.
That's all I could find to put this thing in, and I really didn't want to put it in that. But anyway, there's a back view right there of the little pots to adjust it. There's the front view right there, B and C on the side, the switch on top, and it works pretty good, Bill. I can hook the tracker up to it, and it reads right at 10. Actually, it reads 11 milliwatts, and that's what my analyzer is reading. So that's one of the projects I tried to throw together this week for the show. Again, this is not a bird watt meter. We can surely make improvements with it, but I had a specific tracker build that I had built and had programmed it for constant carrier, and I was just using it for my test for constant carrier, and that's the one I blew up. So I got to build another one. Evidently, that 12 to 20 volts didn't do the little 3-volt regulator very good. So that's kind of where we stand on that.
Charlie in the chat says those chicken head knobs are the right kind of knobs to use on projects like this.
Yeah. So let's look at the knob box here. you'll find just about anything in there, from the pointers to the round ones to the big ones, all types right there. And we didn't throw away anything as I was growing up and coming through my ham radio career, and working in a TV shop too with my uncle. It just so many parts were readily available. It was like it was better than a Radio Shack. I just walked down through the aisles and cut out what parts I wanted, and man, they were just perfect.
I worked in a TV shop when I was in high school, and same kind of a deal. Whenever I came through that the owner didn't want to, they got the estimate, they didn't want to repair it, and we were just going to toss it. It wound up going in the back of my truck and going home, and I'd strip it apart and things like that, and then toss it out.
I bet you my uncle had probably somewhere between 100 and 200 junk sets, just the chassis pulled out, and they're sitting up on their side, and just aisles and aisles of that stuff, man. And transformers, capacitors, filters, anything you wanted, switches, potentiometers, tubes, sockets. Hey, and the thing is, it was all free, and that was a fun time back then. I want to get back into building a lot more stuff here, and we're going to try to do some building projects here for the show, I think, over the next month.
My first shortwave listening antenna was a long wire antenna strung through the attic that I had unwound from the deflection coil of an old TV.
And that would be pretty hard to do, because those deflection yokes, they had a lot of shellac on them, man.
They did, and it took a little bit with the heat gun and carefully stripping it out, and I'd get a good 20 feet, and then it would break at the start.
Yeah, that wire did not want to come out of those things, man. It didn't want to come out, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm saving my lawn money to go buy lunch at Stewart's, and I was cheap, too cheap to go buy wire.
Yeah, well, why buy it when you have it?
We had a store near me called Fair Radio Store Sales. You've probably heard of them, and they basically looked like my barn. It was all mill surplus, old tubes, old knobs, anything you want. And I believe they're still in Lima, Ohio, but just a phenomenal place. But my great uncle was a ham radio operator since the 1920s, and I inherited a lot of his stuff, all in cigar boxes. Boy, cigar boxes are the greatest storage mechanism for parts that you could come up with. And I have dozens of cigar boxes filled with old parts. I believe you can actually buy empty cigar boxes now, and I highly recommend it when you're storing parts like this, because it just works great. But there was a electronics store here that was in business since the 1950s, and they had an old warehouse, and they finally went out of business. And they had an old warehouse, an original store in Decatur, Alabama. They're from Huntsville, and they had an auction of their old warehouse where they originally started, and these parts have been sitting there since the 50s and 60s, and the whole upstairs attic was filled with rows and chassis and channel master antennas and tower segments, all from the 50s, 60s, and it was like going back in time. And that was amazing to see all that stuff. And they had a huge auction. I ended up with more junk out of that too.
Yeah, hey, today, and I was looking at the chat room, one guy, John, says he used to ride his bike around the neighborhood on Sunday night because Monday was garbage trash day, and people would throw the old TVs out, and he'd pick them up. But, I throw a TV out now, and it's got almost no usable parts in it. Nowadays, you throw out a flat screen or something like that, man. There's not a whole lot in there that I want to try to salvage out of it, to tell you the truth.
Now, I had a friend who got married, and she was going to move into his house, And they were very happy together, but one thing she wanted to do was to actually turn the guest bedroom, which had turned into an electronics lab, into an actual guest bedroom. So she ended up taking all his electronic junk boxes and taking them to the curb for trash pickup. And he was very reluctantly going along with this.
Oh boy.
And I'm afraid I put a little salt in the wound because I came over to visit them and I saw her happily carrying out these boxes of goodies. And I could see his sad, forlorn look on his face. And I said, "Hey, this is great stuff. Do you mind if I take some of this?"
Yeah. Oh man. You know,
Very-
I tell you, I mean, the only thing I didn't keep were tubes. I moved. I built a house years ago. We moved, and I cleaned my attic out, and I had probably close to 800 to 1,000 tubes, all in boxes. You know, they weren't all new, but they were in the proper box, tube box. And I piled those out on the curb for the trash man to get. And nowadays, you know, people are needing tubes to restore this old stuff.
I'm going to say that if you'd have held on to that, you would have had a gold mine now.
Yeah. Well, you know, I just didn't.
I regretted selling some of my uncle's old tubes from the 20s and 30s. I sold some of his tubes to Fair Radio Sales, and I really hated to, regretted doing that because now they're big collector's items, and
Yeah.
I think I sold them for $2 a tube, and now they're probably about $20 or $30.
Well, I kept most of the transmitting tubes and things like that, the big tubes. But man, I just couldn't keep them. Got rid of all of them, and back then you don't know. I mean, right now, someday a 2N2222 might be worth $5, man. We just need to hold on to them.
I've got a buddy of mine in the radio club. It's been a ham for many, many years. He's got his DXCC with honors, etc. But he's on the honor roll. But he's got a collection of parts and stuff like that. And he handed me a box that has some of the original germanium transistors still in the individual cardboard boxes.
Yeah. I've got some old stuff like that too. Not close to the original, but back in the early days. Wow, But just like these resistors that I had, let's see that picture right there. I've got sacks and sacks, what do you call it? Envelopes and envelopes and envelopes. I got that in the military. They were throwing it out, and of course I was a ham, and I was in the military, and you just don't throw out bags of precision resistors, like that. And I grabbed a hold of them, and guess what? 50 years later, I have a use for one of them. Look at that. So yeah, I probably hold on to way too much stuff. I don't know. Let's see. What else is going on here? Bill, I know they had the balloon launch this past weekend. Did you want to tell us a little about that? Was that the Great Plains? How'd it go?
Yeah, it was the annual balloon conference. On Friday, we had talks about the different aspects of payload design and how to stabilize payloads. They had our students here at the University of Alabama, Huntsville Space Hardware Club had a great paper on stabilizing camera payloads with gas jets, just like they did in the Gemini area when they're doing the spacewalks. They had gas jets on a little handheld apparatus that can control their orientation. So they just flew it today, another flight test of it, and they got some excellent results. And so we had all kinds of papers, and then on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we had a online Zoom multi-launch where we launched balloons all the way from Oregon, Idaho, Maryland, North Carolina, and we also launched here at Huntsville. So we tried a very interesting thing. We put a bed sheet over a small latex balloon to see if we could turn it into a super pressure balloon to restrict the expansion of the balloon, and it didn't work. I think the seams popped where they had tied it together on the side of the bed sheet, but it certainly looked interesting. Looked like a ghost taking off.
Yeah.
But that was we had a lot of fun with that, and there was next year we're planning to hold it in Indiana. It hops around, and then the year after that I'm going to hold the conference here in Alabama, but it's called the Great Plains Super Launch, and our website is superlaunch.org if you want more information. Okay. And I think the talks will be recorded. They were recorded on Zoom, and they'll be up on that website in the next week or so for people to watch what they missed. Yeah,
I'd like to tune in on some of those and watch them. I was kind of tied up on some projects that I was busy with, but that's great. Hey, let me just mention, everybody, we got Huntsville coming up here soon. We'll be seeing Bill in person down here. Huntsville Hamfest is coming up. I wonder if we got Mark Brown in the chat room tonight. He's usually in the chat room every single night. I don't know if Mark's in here. I haven't noticed, but Mark is the chairman of the Huntsville Hamfest, and that's August, I think it's the 21st and 22nd. Down in Huntsville, Alabama. A great place to go. We always go down a day early and stay about 2 days later. It's just a nice place to be down there. The venue is great, all inside, all air conditioned, connected to the hotel. You don't even have to go out and walk in the heat to get to your car. You just walk through a air conditioned walkway, and it just goes right into the Hamfest, and it's going to be so cool. They've got extra, I think you added maybe 70 to 80,000 square feet more this year to there, just to spread things out a little bit, so it's going to be good. I just got a note back from our friend astronaut Doug Wheelock today. I was following up with him to see if he's going to make it to Huntsville with us. He enjoys going to some of the Hamfest. He's been to Dayton with us 8 years, but he tried to get this on his calendar, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to make it. So I'll have to try to get him down to Huntsville maybe next year. So Doug will not be with us there. Let's see. Alan, you went to a couple Hamfest here recently. I guess things are starting to open up pretty good up there where you are.
Yeah, they've started to open things up here. The Hamfest on Saturday was the second one that I've been to, and the second one that's been in the area here. The first one was about a month ago, and about half the people were still wearing masks at that one. The Hamfest on Saturday, almost nobody was. The numbers in New Jersey have been decent, but still not zero. But more than half of the population in New Jersey has been vaccinated. Mm-hmm. So things are starting to open up here a bit. For the most part, most of the restrictions have been lifted for like indoor dining and things like that. So things are going in the right direction. But it was good. It was nice to have our local Hamfest. If you go to w2qw.org, that's the club's website, and I think our club photographer posted about 180 photos from the Hamfest. Probably more photos than there were people at the Hamfest. But it was good to be out. I was able to bring a bunch of things from my basement lab that we're just collecting dust, and was able to get them to new homes and things like that. And as I had a little bit of fun with most of my videos, as you know, are educational tutorial videos or maybe field day operating videos. But this is the first one I had done that showed a little bit of a drive, a little bit of setup, a little bit of tear down, and a little bit of a drive in a video. But seemed like it was well enough received, so it was fun. But
Well, that's good.
I'm not sure. The next one, the big Hamfest up here for us is this coming weekend. It's up in Sussex County, New Jersey. And oftentimes, people here in the tri-state area call it the Dayton of the East because it is a really good-sized Hamfest. There's a 15-acre property that is part of a state fair or the county fairgrounds, and they've got a big indoor building and really good food service and stuff there. And it's one of those Hamfests. If you walk by every table, like if you take the time to go, make sure you walk by every table outside and every table inside. It would probably take you an hour to do that, and that's a big Hamfest for us here in the Northeast. So, looking forward to that next weekend.
Well, that's great. And hey, boy, Huntsville's coming up here soon. About a month away. We are starting to pull together prizes to give away on the show, and we've got a good lineup of prizes already. Everything from reels, hundreds of feet of LMR 400 to just about everything. If you go to our website and look at last year's prizes for Huntsville, you'll see very similar prizes that we'll be giving out this year. This year, the prizes will be a little bit different. In the past, Hambot always wanted a person to claim the prize. That's not going to happen anymore with our new chat room we're using now. You will have to hit a key or make a comment, so you will be listed in the chat room, and then Hambot will pick a random name, and you will receive that prize. You don't have to answer you're here, but we know you're there because you've had to hit enter or something just to get your name into the queue for prizes during that particular prize. So we know you're there. So we don't make you sit there and watch the screen. If you win, you win, and we ship it to you. So that's going to be great. So that's September 21st, 22nd, I think. There's another Hamfest coming up August 25th. It's East Tennessee. East Tennessee, it's a new one that's being formed near Pigeon Forge and, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville. I think Dollyville's out there. I think it's 2 or 3 clubs coming together to try to have a larger Hamfest, and they've asked me to come over, and I'm going to give a little talk on some of the balloon things we've done, and they wanted me to even launch a little Pico balloon, so we'll probably just launch a Pico balloon there, and we'll have fun. That will be it's a one-day Hamfest, I think 8 o'clock in the morning until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll go down the night before, but we'll probably drive back after the Hamfest. It's probably going to be about an 8-hour drive. Tennessee is a pretty long state to get over there, so that's going to be over in Sevierville area. Go ahead, Bill.
What day is that?
That's going to be August.
Is that this coming weekend?
No, it's August 25th. I'm sorry, September 25th. September 25th is the Sevierville 3-club deal, the new Hamfest over in Sevierville, Pigeon Forge area. September 25th, and August 21st and 22nd is Huntsville. So we're 1 month out of Huntsville and 2 months out of the Sevierville.
This weekend is Coleman, Alabama's Hamfest, and it's always a pretty good one. And it's going to be in the fairgrounds, the Coleman County Fairgrounds this year.
Okay.
And it's they didn't have one last year, so this ought to be a really good one. And that's just down the road from Huntsville. It's about 30 miles south of where I live. So,
yeah. Well, that's close enough.
It's right along Interstate 65. So.
Yeah, that's close enough that I'd almost be interested in jumping in a truck and going down there. And that's you say it's this coming weekend?
It'll be this Saturday morning, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Interesting.
I'll
Yeah,
put
I'm
the
ready.
link in the chat room.
I'm ready to get back to some great Hamfest here. Cliff in the chat room says he's going to Huntsville. It's going to be his first time there. Well, Cliff, you will not be disappointed. Huntsville is about the third largest Hamfest in the country. Air-conditioned, clean facilities. You would not believe how nice it is, how friendly it is there. They have the nickname the friendliest Hamfest, I think, in the world, and it really is. It's more of a family thing too. There's a lot of families that come to it. It's not just a bunch of old guys like me. You got families, mother, fathers, and young children that come to it there. So it's a really good Hamfest to go to. And if you're there, check out the Rocket Center, the Space Center out at NASA. Take a tour out there and check out all the different, I don't know, tours that you can take out there and see different things. It's very informative, and you'll really like it out there. All right, let's see what else is going on, guys. We don't have anything else specifically planned for the show right now. I guess I could maybe open a phone line or something here, maybe this last few minutes. Let me see if I can do
send a
that.
Zoom link out to have other people join in on the Zoom, or you just want to do the phone?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Can somebody put the link in? Well, you know what? Well,
You'd have to drop and then come back in again, right?
Just go ahead and give them this Zoom link. If we ever start having problems, we'll change it. Can you put it in the chat room?
Sure. Yeah, let me grab it and I'll do that.
Okay. So we're going to put in the chat room a Zoom link if you'd like to join us here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the phone line up too. We can take phone calls. We got phone numbers around the world, local phone numbers. Of course, if you've got Zoom, you'll be able to. There you go. There's Alan. Just put the Zoom link in. I forgot about doing that. That's kind of what we had planned to do at the last part of each show, and I had already forgot about that. So.
The other thing, while we're waiting too, I got maybe another little show and tell I could show. It's something
Okay.
else I picked up here. Kind of interesting. Let me go switch my camera again, and I got to turn the
You are
background
the only
off.
participant in the conference.
Let's see. Turn my virtual background off here.
Okay, let me turn the phone down a little.
But anybody seen these little AM/FM shortwave single sideband CW receivers?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You seen this thing? You can see how small this thing is. I mean, you compare it to like this. You know how big these switches are. They are on top of each other. So it's a tiny little receiver. Turn the switch on here. I haven't updated the firmware on this one yet. There's some new updates for that available, but pretty cool. It uses one of the SI 4375. Complete receiver on a chip thing. We'll do AM, FM, single sideband, CW, adjustable filter bandwidths, all different bands and things like that. But little tiny battery operated thing. It's an open source design, so there's a lot of people that are selling them, out of China and things like that. I happen to pick this one up off of eBay. I think it's a variation of the same chip that's used in like this CountyCom, all band receiver.
Now is that a metal? Is that a metal case? It looks like some metal.
It's a metal case. It's got a built-in speaker on the top, and actually it's got it gets loud enough to hear it really well. The front panel is, I think, a milled printed circuit board with a black silk screen on it, and I think the back panel is as well.
Yeah, and what's the frequency range on it?
Oh, it'll tune from broadcast AM up through the FM broadcast band, and there's a couple different bands. Like, it won't be continuous, but it's continuous through the HF bands, and then FM broadcast. So I have to check to see if there's any other band coverage in between there. Like if I adjust the bands here, I'm going through the HF bands, There's let's see, there's 10 meters, goes to 30 megahertz, and then above 30 megahertz it jumps to the FM broadcast band. But pretty cool little receiver. I haven't played with it enough to draw conclusions of whether I really recommend it or not. But the fact that it's battery operated, it's got a built-in speaker and a pretty decent display. It's kind of a fun little receiver to play with. So.
Well, that's cool. I like it. It looks like it's well built. It's really.
It looks pretty good.
So Bill and Alan, you guys all you guys are co-hosts. You can actually approve people as they come in.
All right. Yeah. Just we got William in here, and then looks like Carlos just joined.
And we've got the phone lines open. I got the phone number on the screen there if you'd like to call in.
All right.
Yeah, I like it, and I like the fact that it's in a nice case. That makes it.
Yeah, it doesn't have any feet on it. I'm going to put a couple of rubber feet on it.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty nice case, and it's easy enough to open up if you want to get in there. But I said it is an open source design, so there are people that have done different versions of firmware for it, and there is a USB port, on the back there to kind of see that. There it is. So if you I think you could just use your normal Arduino, IDE to go and program it, because inside is an Arduino Nano that's plugged into the board to control this single chip receiver. So and I think the software's or the sketch is available. You can go and modify and play with it if you want. But it's pretty cool. It's kind of fun to play with.
Yeah, now see, if you were here, and I would walk you into my junk room box here, and I've got all kinds of rubber feet that would stick on there.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch downstairs. I just haven't grabbed them yet. Yeah, Bill.
Hey, Alan, Charlie here.
Basically, what battery does you?
Oh, it's got a rechargeable lithium battery. It's kind of sitting underneath there. But the charge controller and everything is all built right on the board. So it's a self-contained thing. It's like one of those little, lithium batteries that's in like the little silver pouch.
And how long does it last on a charge?
I've played with it for like a half an hour at a time, and then the battery voltage. There's a battery percentage hasn't dropped down more than another 10 or 20%. So you probably get a couple hours out of it.
That's good.
All
and
right,
good volume. You get pretty good volume on.
Yeah, let me. Like I said, if I put this on, let me go and turn this thing on here again, and the only thing that I know I can receive with this tiny little antenna is the FM broadcast band. So give me a second here when it finishes booting up here. Let's see.
No.
Find a station here.
Yeah.
But works good.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we got Carlos in here. Hey, Carlos, how you doing tonight?
Well, fine. Do you hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, the Zoom thing here says Carlos, but call me Charlie, of course.
Ah, okay, okay. You're in Uruguay?
Yeah, sure, in Uruguay.
Oh, okay.
I have my, the icon here is all the three dancing little filter here. It's Alan knows what this is. It's an RF filter of an PCB, very high frequency one.
Yep.
And it's like three little dancing dolls or something. Everybody thinks they're like dancing dolls or whatever. But I have the same icon in all my.
Back on your Twitter feed there.
Yeah, of course. So you can always. Well, it's easy to identify me.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I just bought one of those and received it today, Alan. I just bought the PCB only, but without the case, because I had just I couldn't get because we have some limitations with the amount of for the imports duty. We have some $200 limitation, so I had some money left to put into the package, and I bought one of those.
Okay.
But I'm amazed with how does it perform. I'm guessing that you're going to make a video on it, right?
That was the intent. I was going to get it and do a video on it, but I might do it. There's one or two firmware updates on it because the original version that's in there is that 1.1.5. I think it's the hand that wrote that is, let's see, I got it written down here, PU2CLR. But there's a couple of bugs in it. Like if you switch off the AGC, it doesn't go back on again, and you can switch through an attenuator value, and it's a little screwy the way that works, but that's been corrected in some later versions of firmware. And then also the frequency readout on the later versions has been made larger. So I might update to one of those before I go ahead and do a video on it. But I think it's going to receive as well as this little county comm that I've done some videos on in the past. But you can see from a size standpoint, it's it's really it's
incredible. I mean,
it really is pretty amazing. So
it's amazing. I was wondering, wanted to use it like a. I have one of those Sony 7600 receivers, and it's really bad. I mean, it's not bad performing, but it has lots of issues, like it's unstable and had lots of problems, and never could get really good performance out of it. So I've got tired of that stuff and decided to buy something cheap to go around with. But I wasn't very sure about its performance. But I will test it and I hope it. I can see it will work really well.
Yeah, I don't. The big thing is, especially being, without any real RF front end or anything like that. I tend to wonder how easy it's going to get overloaded, by strong stations, either in band or adjacent bands or something like that. But
so, Alan, if you put that on 40 meters up in the voice sideband or 20 meters, could you actually? Would it be good enough to make a contact with?
Well, it's only a receiver, but I'll have to take a look to see. I have set it up over on my bench on that switch position where I can actually hook up to my antenna. And I did some initial comparisons and listening to like a CW station on 40 meters and then switching over to this radio. And it's not as sensitive as one of the HF rigs that I have, but if I had a signal that was S8 or S9 on the HF rig, it was easily receivable on this. If I had a signal that was sitting around S5, it really is kind of in the noise floor for this radio. So there isn't a whole lot of gain in the front end, but for strong signals, it should work well. And for shortwave broadcast listening, as long as the shortwave stations are coming in strong enough and you got a decent enough antenna, it should work pretty well. Hey, there's Charles.
Hello. Okay, nice. There, I'm okay, right? Yes. I've never turned on the camera.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's good to see you.
Yeah,
good to see you.
I am. Okay, fine. So it's like the Baofeng. I was laughing today at. It was Paul that was. Calling the Baofeng, he couldn't pronounce it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, those are the only radios I have, the only ATs I have, because you can buy like 5 of those or 10 of those before you can buy one of the real ones.
Well, we'll put it this way. My new HT is this Kenwood THF6A that I've had for 15 years. That's my new HT.
Well, but the problem is I always thought of buying a nice one, but then I said I go out to the street and I lose it or get stolen or whatever, and then I say, oh, come on, $500 in a radio that I can get for $20,
Right.
So yes, so it's that balance you have to get to for the radio. Yes.
Sure. But like I said, I don't use the HTs that much. I think I used it this weekend we had a talk group frequency for the folks working the Hamfest. But that's the first I've used the HT in probably since last year.
Yeah, the same happens to me. I use it very seldomly. So yeah, that's the issue there. Yeah. So I don't know. But I also was remembering about the gain and the front end, that some versions of the Baofengs, if you put an external antenna, they'll block literally. So it's like but it's strange because on the same model there are some that work and some that don't work. So it's like they're rubbish, really rubbish, but they're really cheap. So
that's right. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's it.
Good. Well, it's good to see you, Charlie. Because
okay,
it's looks like to see you, not just a bunch of
dancing dolls. Yes.
Well, actually, I'm so glad to have Charlie on here now. Charlie is in here every single night. I think he makes more of the shows than even I make.
Oh, come on, no.
Yeah.
Only Tuesdays and yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite. It's nearly midnight here, so.
Yeah.
But I always stayed late at night, and it's difficult for me to get out of bed early.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah. I still have to do the dishes tonight. So.
Okay.
Oh boy. Well, maybe it won't be too many of them.
Get up early enough to walk the dog so I can get to work on time. So.
Yeah.
Hey Charlie, do you know my friend Ignacio in LU1 ESY in Buenos Aires?
Which station in Buenos Aires? I didn't get it.
Lima United 1 Echo Sierra Yankee. LU1.
Echo Sierra
LU1
Yankee.
ESY,
Yeah, he participated. I don't know him, but he always participates. Let me check because I have the logs here because I'm managing the logs of the last AM contest. We organized at the club an AM contest. So let me check that. Just 1 second. Where is that? I think it's AM. Let me see because he participates. He always participates in the AM contest. So yes, it's a call sign that it's always around, but I don't know him personally. Maybe I have spoken to him, but
He's in the.
Yeah,
He's
I don't
in the
see.
AMSAT.
Oh yes,
AMSAT Argentina.
Yes, right there, from there. Yes, exactly. Yes. But I don't know him personally. No.
All right, we got. Let's see, who else that joined us? Was it Charlie? No, let's see, who was it? Let me look.
We got William and Bill.
William.
I have 3 Bills in here now.
Yeah, let's take William. Hey, William, how you doing, William? Hello, William.
Oh, you just got to unmute yourself there, William. So there you go.
We're still not hearing you, William.
Still muted. I don't know if you got audio or not.
He's talking, but
there you go.
I don't know which William it is.
There you go. Where are you, William? Where are you located?
Oh, I'm just a little bit south of Columbus, Ohio. I'm near Circleville, Ohio.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Cool. I would say you're down in your basement.
Be correct. Yeah, that's the only place where the lighting's good. And now that you've seen my face,
Well, hey, that would make a great ham shack. That would make a great ham shack down here. We don't have basements where I live here. Nobody has basements, and I think that would be really cool.
well, upstate, nobody has ham shacks in the basement either because of the water table along Lake Erie. But I'm far enough south here that we can get away with it and have a basement that's dry enough that I can do it. And my wife insists on it as well. So,
Yeah, my wife is actually very cooperative. She's my virtual background there. That's my basement lab, and then I've got one of the second floor bedrooms here is my ham shack, and in the basement I've kind of got both my lab right there, and just adjacent to that is my wood shop, which I haven't used that much, but that's so I've got just give me those 2 rooms of the house and the garage, and the rest of the house is hers.
I got it all down here. Lab, shack, shop, everything.
Nice.
Anything that doesn't have to do with really low repairs like cars and things like that.
Right.
It's all done right down here. So
Very good.
I had a friend that had a basement ham shack, and he actually ran his business there. Anyways, my friend had his business, his electronic kit business in his basement and his ham shack down there. And he went up on a lake trip, and when he came home, he noticed all his electronic parts were flowing out of the front door, and his basement had flooded completely to the top.
Oh my, that didn't happen to be in Ohio, did it?
Yes, it was up in northern Ohio. I'm from Findlay, Ohio, originally. I went to school at Ohio State.
His name wasn't Bill also, was it, by any chance?
That's the one, yes. He lives down the street from me. I grew up about a mile away from that Bill.
Sure. Kanga, yeah.
Kanga, U.S., N-8-E-T. So
Yep.
I'm going to be up there again in about a week, and I'm planning to go by and say hello to him.
Well, say hi to him. I haven't seen him in a long time, and I also unfortunately had a stroke about 10 years ago, but I dodged a bullet. So I remember when he was first sick, seen him at the Hamfest.
He has recovered. He has recovered beautifully from it, so he's doing pretty well now.
Well, then that's two of us that dodged some bullets then. That's great. It's always good to hear.
Yeah, here in the Northeast, I guess most of the houses have got basements. So I grew up with one, and every house I've had has had one. So always kind of used to it. I don't know what I'd do without it with all the junk I got down there. I don't know where I'd put it.
Man. Well, we could use them. We could use the basement down here with all the tornadoes we have, but we just don't have them.
Yeah, we had an area not too far from us that had got some flooding, and my brother-in-law at the time lived on one of those streets, and that got flooded, and his basement filled right to basically the first floor. His first floor didn't get underwater, but it opened up the basement door, and it was right at the water level. So everything in his basement got completely ruined. So once the water was out and then had the basement pumped out, we just had to pull everything out of the basement and start over.
It can be a real mess. Yeah. So Tom, is the water table just high there where you live?
I think water table's pretty high. I mean, well, I don't know if the Mississippi River has anything to do with it or not. I'm a good ways from the Mississippi, but I think the water table's fairly high here. I don't know. What's the elevation? What do you know what your elevation is up there?
Mine here, I think in feet, I think we're like 720, 740 feet above sea level.
Yeah, the elevation here is like in the 300s. And of course, across the river, it's almost zero. I mean, it is low, but it's flat. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but I don't know. It's just not a common thing. There may be some very old homes around that may have had it, but I don't know of any.
One thing I really like about it is that you can inspect things like pipes. You have a place for heating systems. There's like a lot of room for that kind of maintenance. And then also I can look around. Now, termites are a big problem around here. So I can do a very easily, annual flashlight check all the way around the perimeter, inside and out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always figured the basements we had here in the Northeast is because everybody's lives on a small lot. I mean, my building lot is 75 feet by 150 feet, and that's pretty typical, a little quarter-acre lot and smaller. So in order to get, we don't get big spread out houses. We get houses that go up stories and go down into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Around here, I live on a mountain, and the dirt's only about 2 feet deep, and then it's bedrock, and so it's almost impossible to make a basement. But my neighbor did. Had to blast it out with dynamite over the course of about a month or so, and he's got a great basement as a result. If there's ever a tornado, that's where I go. I run across the street, and he's a ham as well. WB4 VHF is his call, but no, I can't unless I get a bunch of dynamite. I'm not going to have a basement up here. Of course, the good news is on top of the mountain, water flows here, so I never really have any flooding issues. 500 feet above average terrain, So my antennas are only 10 feet tall, and I can work on them with a step ladder. But being on the edge of a cliff here, it's like having a 510-foot tall antenna tower, and that's really nice being up on a mountain like that. It's not really a mountain by California standards, but it sure is by Ohio standards.
Well, I'm surprised we haven't had any phone calls tonight. We got the number up on the screen if anybody wants to call in. We'll be on for about another 8 minutes until we sign off. That will, at 10 p.m. Central Time is the end of our show as far as our shortwave segment goes. This show is rebroadcast on WBCQ on 7490 every Thursday afternoon from 5 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time on 7490. So if you got a shortwave radio there, which most of you do, tune to 7490 on Thursday afternoon, late afternoon, and you'll hear this show.
When's the next balloon go up, man?
Well, we just launched one from the Yoda events, 4 of them, and they went over Columbus today. It landed near Bell Fountain. We had one land near Bell Fountain at Youth on the Air, and they just recovered it from a soybean field just about an hour ago. So it had a voice beacon. It had a voice beacon on 70 centimeters on 446.025 and CW and voice, and from just Marysville, Ohio, if you know where that is, northwest of Columbus. It was 100,000 feet above Marysville, and I could copy the UHF beacon down here in Huntsville, Alabama. So
wow.
Antenna height is everything.
And Bell Fountain is just, incidentally, it's the highest elevation.
Highest.
Yeah. Yep.
In
Ohio.
We used to make some. I'm unmuted. Yes, we used to make some. Had some balloon launching at the club some years ago, and we did the latex one with the first one was a huge thing, like it weighed like, I don't know, like 2 kilos, that like 4 or 5 pounds the payload. It was incredible and really sophisticated, but it had 2 of them had a repeater, a voice repeater, which was incredible because the experience of other hams from the region, like not only Uruguay but Argentina and some from Brazil, talking through the repeater on the balloon was incredible. That day was really cool, like because the repeater was made with a couple of baofeng, hang one to the other, but it was incredible to operate the repeater. Really fun time. But then it has to coordinate everything, and it's a lot. So if you don't have it like really like
control, have a net control.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's in the first one it was really interesting because we didn't know anything about it, so we thought that the batteries would run out. So what happened to the balloon? We have this fencing so that it doesn't go out from Uruguay, so that we don't invade other airspaces, right? So what happened with I remember like it was yesterday, because we filled it up with gas and with helium, and we didn't fill it enough. So when we launched it, it was like it didn't lift up, no. So one of the guys there ran and got it and came back, and we filled it. We didn't know how much. Well, the first time we have everything measured, but there was lots of wind, so we couldn't. We didn't have a good weight to measure the amount of gas we put into it. So we put too few. too little gas. So then we got it back and we filled it a lot there. We didn't know how much. We said, okay, it must be enough, and we put it back together. And in that procedure, we put a zip tie in a place incorrectly, and the mechanism to release the balloon it didn't work properly. So what happened? The balloon went towards the ocean. So that wasn't a problem, because then towards the ocean, no problem. But it stabilized at an altitude, and it stayed there and fixed. And it was like incredible, because the balloon it lasted for 8 hours. And it lasted operating for 8 hours. So it was incredible, like a balloon that a typical launch of that type of balloon comes down in a couple of hours, right? It lasted for 8 hours. It was really cool, really cool.
We did that for the Huntsville Hamfest. We sent one up, and it went east, and it then came back over as 4 hours later at 103,000 feet, and was floating. Because if you can
floating,
make it do that on purpose. But you did it by accident.
By accident, completely by accident.
And it will stay up all day and all night and part of the next day. And ours ended up in Texas, which is 800 miles west of us is where it ended up. So we've had crossband repeaters, like you described, with people talking from 400 or 500 miles away from the balloon, through the balloon, and we've had people 700-800 miles apart talking to each other using the balloon as a relay repeater. I had one that was launched here from Alabama on just a little walkie-talkie. I could talk through the balloon to people in Columbus, Ohio. So it's just amazing the coverage that you can get from these things.
It's really great. Yeah. I like it when you have the repeater. I think it's the best, and it's the best experience with the rest of the hams. Because any ham with a walkie-talkie and a small handheld antenna can operate. So you don't have to be into the ballooning business to really appreciate it, but you can be any guy with an antenna and work the repeater, and that's really cool.
All right, guys, everybody,
have a satellite stick.
Everybody, stand by just a moment here. We got 1 minute to go on our shortwave broadcast. So, hey, if you've been out there listening to us tonight, you've been listening to Amateur Radio Roundtable, a show about ham radio. And we invite you back next week. If you're listening on shortwave, you're hearing the show on Thursday afternoon. But you can also tune in and watch the show on youtube.com/W5KUB every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central Time. For our international people, that's 0100 UTC on Wednesday if you want to join us there. Send us a postcard or a letter. I don't know if they even make postcards anymore. Send us a letter. No, send us an email. Yeah, send us an email. Boy, I'm old time. Send us an email to tom@w5kub.com and tell us where you are and if you're hearing the station. And 73, good night to everybody listening out there on shortwave. All right. Well, guys, we can continue here on Zoom, and we'll just leave the broadcast on for a few more minutes. My wife is I'm tracking my wife right now, and on here I know right where she is. She's about she's maybe 10 minutes away. She just drove 550 miles, so she's been driving for about the last 10 hours, and she's almost home.
Righty. I think I'm going to check out, gentlemen. I will walk the dog and then
Yep.
head to bed. So good to see everybody. Good show tonight. And
fun. Great.
Guys joining here on Zoom. Bill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Charlie and Tom.
Bill, and good. Okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Good night to everybody. Good night to all the
show,
Bills and everybody. Yeah, good night, everybody out there.
Everybody.
So,
One thing. Charlie?
yeah.
Charlie?
Yes.
We did a simplex repeater. Hello? Let's see if it's working. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Let's try. Anyway, we did a simplex. We put a voice chip recorder on one single bifang and on one frequency on 2 meters, and you transmit up to it for 20 seconds, and then it repeats back what it heard for 20 seconds. It's a very easy way of making a repeater that doesn't require 2 radios, and it gets a little, you have to get used to it since you have to talk, wait 20 seconds, and listen to what came back. But people got used to it, and we had some great conversations that way.